Hello guys, this is Christian and you are welcome back to the Don't Have channel. So in our last videos, we were able to set up our login and sign up screens, right? And in this video, we are going to add our Formik component to our form. Okay. When we say Formik, what's Formik? It's basically a small React Native components and hooks for building forms in React Native and React. Okay. So when you are coming from a web development background, you already know what a form is. So that is what in React Native we term as Formik and together with some hooks. Okay, so let's go to the documentation. I'll leave the link down below. You can come and read some stuffs here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to install it. Okay, so I'm going to copy and then go back to our project. Let me open a new terminal here. All right, so I'm going to paste it and then install it. Right, so whilst it's installing, let's quickly go to the documentation and read what we are supposed to do. Okay, so this code. Okay, so you have to first import it. So let me quickly do that. Copy. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, and then what next? So we are going to call the component, and then we are going to pass in initial values. We are also going to validate it, but we are going to do that with Yup. We will come back to Yup later. Okay, so for now, let me go back to our project, and then right here, oops, then right at the top here, I'm going to use our Formik here. Okay, so I'm going to pass our Formik, and inside our Formik, oops, we are going to pass in the props. Okay, so you see props, good, and then we are going to move all these stuffs, all the inputs, and then the button into our Formik. Okay, and then this is supposed to return a component, not components. Okay, so I'm going to cut this and put it down here. All right, so I think it's cool now. So once I save it, nothing happens, don't worry. Now what we are going to do is we are going to add some uh, elements. Okay, we are going to add some features to our inputs. Okay, so what we are going to add for now is going to be our on-chain text. Okay, so we're going to add our on-chain text, and the on-chain text is basically whenever we type in our input text. Okay, whenever we type in, let's say ni, okay, whenever we type in here, it triggers the on-chain text. Okay, so let's just log so that you know what I'm talking about. Let's pass in a parameter, say value, and let me call the value here. Okay, let's save it and eyes on the console. See, once I type, it gets, you see, whenever I type, it gets updated or it lost the value here, right? So that is basically what the on-chain text is doing. So I'm just going to pass in a props here, which says props dot handle change. Okay, so that is what, and then we are going to pass a parameter of the name of the field. Okay, so before we continue, let's add some names here. Okay, we're going to add the initial values, which is going to be username. So let me just copy it and let me give it an empty string. Oops. Let me change this one to small. Oops. So this one to small. Let me wrap them in another curly braces. Good. And then we're going to add a password. Okay, so a password, that one too is going to be an empty string. Then we're going to add a confirm password, so that one too is going to be an empty string. Okay, whatever you put in here is going to show at the initial stage. Okay, so let me see. When I type in boy here, let me see. Let me refresh and let's see what happens. Okay, I don't know why it's not coming, but then let's finish with what you are doing. I'm sure by the time we are done it will. Okay, so let's pass in the username here. All right, and then we are going to add a couple of things. We are going to add an omble function, okay, which is also going to contain the props. Oops, what is happening? Props dot. We are going to pass in the handler blur. Okay, we are going to also pass in a username as a parameter, and then we're also going to pass in the value. Oops. Okay, and here we are going to pass in the props, and then we are going to pass in value dot username. Okay, so that is going to be the value, and then we are going to pass in the touch. Okay, and this touch is going to contain the props dot touch. Okay, good, and then you're going to pass in the name here. Don't worry, I will explain everything to you. Okay, and then the next thing you're going to pass in is errors. Then here I'm going to pass in the props dot error dot username. Okay, and then the think we've already passed in the placeholder. Okay, so let me refresh the screen and see what happens. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to copy all these stuffs, and then you're going to pass them to the next ones. Okay, so you're just going to change the name to password. Right, so let me copy it, and then you're going to pass it here, and then there, let's change it to password, and then now let's copy it once again, let's pass it here too. Okay, and then that one, the name is going to change to C password. So I'm going to select all of them, change it to C password. Now I'm going to save it. Okay, so let's move to the up button. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to pass in and unpress the function you are going to call. Sorry, you are going to pass in the props dot handle submit. Okay, so this handle submit function is actually going to call the onSubmit function. Okay, so now let's save it and let's move to the onSubmit function. So onSubmit function, and then here we are going to pass in value. Okay, and then action, and outside here we're just going to pass in, want to just log the values. Okay, and let me just pass in the values. Oops, good. So now let's save it, let's try our hands on it. Let's type in something here. So let's type in a username, let's say Christian. Oops, and then let's say password 1234, confirm 1234. Okay, just any way, and then let's type in, let's press on submit. Okay, so now come here, as you can see here, we are receiving our values, right? So that is basically what we are trying to do here. I don't know why when you pass in a value here, it's supposed to appear at the initial stage. Let me try and reload it. Oops, let me save it before. I actually don't know. Let me try and let's see what's happening here. Supposed to change test. blur touch. Okay, so I mistakenly didn't add the value. Okay, so let's add the value and see if it's going to solve the problem for us. Okay, and then let's pass the value as a prop here. So let me say value, let me pass it here and save it. All right, so you can see on our screen now the initial value is coming. Okay, so when we change it to Christian, let's save it and let's try and refresh it. So at the initial stage, the value we are expecting in our username is supposed to be just Christian, right? All right, so as you can see, we are getting Christian. Okay, but we can also change it to a different value, right? So we've been able to wrap our form with our Formik component, right? So what you're going to do next is you're going to add the Yup function. Yup. Okay, the Yup is basically going to help us to validate our form before we make a post. Okay, so this is how it looks. So form is actually Yup. Sorry, let's try and install Yup. So I'm just going to copy this. Let's go back to our project and then I'm going to paste it here. So whilst it's installing, let's go back and see how we can use it. Okay, so this is how it is. You can import it and then you create an object. Okay, so it will contain all the fields you have in your form and then you can require it. So as you can see, dot string means it's supposed to be a string. Dot required means it's supposed to be, it's not, it can be null. Okay, that field can be left empty. And then as you can see here, age, so it means this field is supposed to be an integer, a number, sorry, it's supposed to be required a positive. Okay, and then email, so it's a lot. You can come here and read through all of them. So we'll just go to our project. Now I already have a copy of it, so I'm just going to paste it right below here. Okay, so here I'm just importing the Yup function. I'm importing everything, and then I'm creating an object. Okay, so I have a username, sorry, oops, username, and then I have a password. The password is supposed to be 2, so password and C password. So what I'm trying to say here is this username is a Yup. Okay, and it's supposed to be a string. The string we also want it to be required. Okay, and then in the password side I'm saying, oh, that one too is supposed to be a string, but then that one, the minimum character we can take is 6. Okay, so below 6 is going to throw an error. All right, and then it's supposed to be required, same as the C password. Okay, oops, what is happening? Okay, so you're supposed to give it a comma here, and then let's come down here. Let me remove this one from here. Okay, so I think we are good to go. Let me try and then give it some space here. Okay, good. So once it's done installing, we are going to add it to our initial values here. Okay, so as you can see here, you can pass another, which is the validation scheme. Okay, oops, where is it? So we are going to validate it with what was the name we gave it to it, review schema. Okay, oops, so I'm just going to pass the review schema here. Okay, so it's going to validate our form before it will send or it will move to the next stage, which we are going to handle it in a couple of minutes. Okay, all right, so once we are done installing, let's try our form again. Okay, so I think we have to go and then let's reload the app. Okay, so we have to start it again. All right, so now let's try our hands on the form and see if we've been able to achieve what we wanted it to. So let's say I'm going to give it Christian. Oops, there is an error. Let's see what the error says. The error says props.validate. Okay, let's go back. Let me check. I think this is supposed to be validation schema. I think, yeah. So actually that's what threw the error. So let's reload. Okay, so now let's try it again. Christian. Okay, great. And then password. Let's just try and type in 123. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so you can see you're getting password must be at least 6 characters. Okay, so this is actually Yup at work. Okay, it's trying to validate our schema, or let's say our form for us. Okay, so let me try it again by saying great. See, now it's gone. Let me try again with this one. Okay, you see now that one too is also validated. Okay, so until that, we can never submit it when one of them is not validated. Okay, so let's check in our console. You see, I've click on sign up. It's not actually posting anything. Okay, but once we are done with the validation, we can now click on submit, and here we go. You can see our object is being logged in the console. Okay, so that is basically what the Formik and Yup combined together do. Okay, so we are just going to do a copy of this for our login page. Okay, so let's quickly move to the login screen, and I'll go to my log here. So I'm just going to copy the Yup and then the Formik. Okay, now paste it here, and I'm going to copy my validation schema. Okay, and I'm going to paste it here. Now I'll come back later. So here, let's below this. So now let's call our Formik components. Oops. Let's wrap them around. Let's save it. Oops. Okay, so now let's wrap them inside this. Let's save. Okay, so we can now change or copy these components and replace them here. Okay, and let's save it. Oops. So let's try and then pass in our prop. Okay, let me try and do it exactly what we did here. Copy. All right, now let me move this one down. Okay, I think I have to move this one up. Let's save it. Oops, something is happening here. Prop username, so you have to add the initial values and then our schema here. Okay, so just going to copy it. We're going to paste it here. Let's save it. All right, so our login screen is also ready. Okay, oops, supposed to be sign in or login. Okay, good. Let's save it. I think let's try and then let's type something here. Oops. Okay, so the validation is working as well. So we've been able to achieve what we wanted to. Okay, so we've been able to add our Formik components around our form. Okay, and then we validated it with Yup. Okay, so in the next video we're actually going to start creating the backend side and then link it with the front end so that we can actually sign in a user or register a user to the chat app. Okay, for this and more, Click on the subscribe button if you haven't enjoyed this community. See you in the next video.